well-wishers, and welcome to my channel Aspiring Minds. Now as you look at this picture, close your eyes and imagine yourself in the 17th century surrounded by candlelight, quills scratching parchment and the intoxicating aroma of ink. But wait, you haven't traveled in time. You've just entered the world of metaphysical poetry. So let us now begin with our understanding of metaphysical poetry. Now, what is metaphysical poetry? It is a literary movement that emerged or began in the 17th century in England. What are its characteristics? You can see a lot of intellectual and philosophical exploration of complex themes, structures which were new and unconventional, and metaphysical poetry is often associated with a group of poets who shared similar ideas, styles and themes. But now you must be wondering, what is exactly the meaning of this term metaphysical? Now remember, this term was coined by a poet and critic, Samuel Johnson, in the 18th century. You can see his picture on the screen. The word metaphysical means beyond physical. That is, the poets at this time explored abstract ideas which you could not see, but ideas obviously can't be seen, but these were ideas which could not be associated quite literally with the world around. It was something which was extremely a sheer piece of imagination. And do you know another fun fact? The metaphysical poets got their term after Samuel Johnson coined the term. But in reality, all these poets who we today know as metaphysical poets were actually referred to as sons of Ben. And this name that they got, this title that they got rather, they got it because they all had something in common. That is, they admired the poetry, the work of their earlier poet, Ben Jonson. Let us now quickly learn the features or characteristics of metaphysical poetry. At a glance, if you see, these are the 5 characteristics that you find in metaphysical poetry. That is, it had intellectual depth. We will learn something about what is known as metaphysical conceits. There was use of paradox and wit. It often featured opposite ideas and unconventional structure. Now, metaphysical poetry is known for having intellectual depth and it explored a lot of philosophies. Now, what does it mean? It means that the poets were not at all scared of diving deeper into exploring complex and difficult ideas. And what did they really imagine and think about and try to research and explore? The nature of love, relationship between the physical and the spiritual world, and the transitory nature of life. That is, life is fleeting, you cannot control time. This is one of the most unique features of metaphysical poetry. That is, almost all the poets, metaphysical poets, employed something known as metaphysical conceits. Now, what is it? It means that it is an extended metaphor, or they use an analogy where they are comparing two completely opposite ideas. This was known as conceits. Metaphysical poets also used paradoxical statements and wit, that is, things which are not quite related to each other, so that they could challenge the conventional or the usual and traditional ideas, knowledge, and provoke thought to, instigate thinking capacity in human beings who ever read their poetry. And they frequently employed wordplay. Their language is something of a marvel. You have to read metaphysical poetry to understand this better. Now remember, some time back I was talking about metaphysical conceit. This is quite similar to this, the juxtaposition of opposites. Now this is something which was a favorite technique of the metaphysical poets and unique to them, that is, they used completely opposite ideas. Can you ever imagine? A poet has compared the two lovers to the two sides of a compass. You can see both the images on your screen. This is such a unique and rare idea. We cannot even think of this comparison, but the poets in the 17th century came up with this idea where lovers are compared to the two sides of a compass. Now remember, we cannot categorize metaphysical poetry as only sonnets or lyrics or other such forms of poetry. No, they experimented with different types of or different forms of poetry like the sonnets, couplets, and they twisted the structure of a usual sonnet or a usual couplet. That was unique. Now love has been often used as a source of inspiration by many poets throughout history. But what if I told you that there was a group of poets who turned the concept of love inside out? They dissected it with absolute precision, like a surgeon performing surgery, and it resembled an intricate puzzle of paradoxes. Let's see how. We will now explore the various themes that we find in metaphysical poetry. Here is a diagram for you to explore it at a glance, and now let's delve deeper. Now, a theme that you find in many of the metaphysical poetries is love. Metaphysical poets explored the complexity of love. They used erotic imagery to bring out the message of love, and they explored the emotional and spiritual aspect of human relationships. Another theme that we find in metaphysical poetry is religion and spirituality. Here, they explored things like nature of God, salvation, and the relationship between man and God. Another theme that we find in metaphysical poetry is transience and mortality. The very fact that human beings are not mortal. Life and death are two things which are not in the control of human beings. Death is certain and inevitable, and it is uncertain in the face of life. That is, you cannot control when you are going to come into this world and when you are going to die. This theme was explored widely by the metaphysical poets. And one thing that you find not just in metaphysical poetry but in all poems is all poets definitely make use of nature. But it is really beautiful to read metaphysical poetry specifically because the way they have explored nature by using examples from nature and connecting it with real life to show the relationship between man and nature is exemplary. The four most important poets that come to our mind when we read about metaphysical poetry or we use the term metaphysical poetry is John Donne. John Donne specifically used or explored the theme of love and religion in his poems. Among the metaphysical poets, George Herbert is specifically known for writing religious poetry, and he explored devotional themes in his poems because he was also a priest by profession. Next is Andrew Marvell, who in his poems explores ideas of time, love, and human experience. And lastly, we have Henry Vaughan. He too used religious and spiritual ideas, and experience was the center of his poetry. Now, having discussed about everything related to metaphysical poetry, that is the characteristics, themes, and the famous poets who are associated with metaphysical poetry, in my upcoming videos, I'm going to discuss the meaning and analysis of the metaphysical poems in detail. So that's it from this video. I hope you liked it. Do hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel for more such future updates. Thank you for watching. Bye.